I've always known my place in the family, not because anyone told me directly, but because no one ever had to. I was the one who made things run. Quietly. Precisely. No recognition necessary. In our family, if you did something well enough, you got asked to do it again. And again. If you did it silently, you were invited to stay invisible. It was an early summer morning in Charleston. The kind where the ocean breeze wraps around your ankles as you walk barefoot across cold tile. The sky hadn't decided yet if it would be blue or gray, and the house was still, too still. I stood at the kitchen counter, slicing a lemon with the kind of rhythm you only develop after years of doing things no one notices. That's when the text came. Prepare the yacht and cook dinner for 35 friends. That was it. No hi. No hope you're well. Not even a please. Just an instruction. Like I was one of the staff. And maybe I was. Maybe I'd let them turn me into that without even noticing. I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. Normally, I'd type back, okay. Just that. No punctuation. Like a good soldier acknowledging an order. But my thumbs didn't move. A memory surfaced, Mother's 60th, when I handled the entire gala solo. I orchestrated every detail down to the signature cocktail. The evening unfolded without a single hiccup. But she never once said thank you. She thanked the florist. This time, something felt different. Not louder. Just heavier. The kind of heavy that sits in your chest, not your hands. I slipped the phone onto the table and exhaled, sharp and short. Fine. Dinner for 35. I mentally ran through the checklist. Linens from Annette's boutique. That dependable florist on Broad Street, Bethany? No, Beverly. Menu, oysters, duck confit, herbed couscous, those tiny vanilla meringues that melt before you chew. Theme, coastal elegance, gold accents against ivory drapes, white roses, and oak leaf-shaped napkins. I'd fold each napkin by hand. The shape required precision, 8 folds and a diagonal pinch. No one would notice, of course. But I would. I've built legacies for people who don't see me. My clients write me 5-star reviews, but my family doesn't even remember to call me on my birthday. Except maybe out of guilt. It wasn't until I reviewed the guest list, just a quick peek to confirm final numbers, that I saw it. Every marrow was there. Uncles, cousins, second cousins, even Robert's new girlfriend from his 3rd marriage. Everyone. Except me. At first, I thought it was a clerical error. But there was no line for me. Not even a placeholder. No seat. No table assignment. No mention. Deliberate. They wanted me to build the experience, but not be part of it. And just like that, the silence I'd been carrying for years cracked. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even surprised. I was angry. If I vanished tomorrow, I whispered, they wouldn't file a missing persons report. They'd just send someone to invoice me for the damn flowers. The thought startled me. It was mine, sharp, cold, and honest. I didn't reply to Mother's text. Not then. Not even after I closed the guest list document and stared out the window toward the marina. I didn't move. But something inside me did. For the first time, I didn't ask myself how to make the night perfect. I asked something else. What if I didn't show up? What if I just didn't? A faint memory returned, my father, years ago, after one of those long, silent dinners where I'd cleared every plate without being asked. He looked at me, glass of scotch in hand, and said, "Quiet daughters keep families from falling apart." But what if keeping this family together meant breaking myself? What if I'd been so quiet for so long, I'd forgotten how to make noise? I sat back, my eyes falling on the pile of folded napkins I'd already started. One, in particular, caught my eye. Perfectly shaped like an oak leaf. Crisp edges. Elegant. And completely pointless. No one would notice it. No one ever had. And yet, I always folded them anyway. I picked it up, stared at it a long moment, then gently set it back down. They don't know it yet, but this time I won't be waiting on that yacht. I didn't tell anyone I'd show up. And truth be told, I hadn't planned to. But I did. Just after sunset, I stood on the marina boardwalk watching the yacht sway gently in its slip. Laughter echoed from the upper deck. Glasses clinked. The party had already started. I parked 2 streets down and walked the rest of the way, heels clicking on the wooden planks. My dress was formal, navy silk, fitted but simple. Appropriate. Safe. I didn't wear it for them. Nobody called. Nobody texted to ask, "Are you coming?" Because they just assumed I would. I climbed aboard, unannounced. No welcome. Just a clipboard thrust into my hands from my brother, Martin, as he breezed past me. "Check if the bar's running low on vermouth," he said. No greeting. No eye contact. A guest nearby looked at me and asked, "Is she the event planner?" No one corrected them. Not Martin. Not my sister. Not even my mother, who was standing 6 feet away sipping her Chardonnay like it cost more than most people's cars. And I didn't correct them either. But something inside me pulled tight, like a thread about to snap. Later, during the formal toast, Father cleared his throat, raised his glass, and said, "Big thanks to everyone who helped make this night come together." That was it. No names. No specifics. Felice, always the star, leaned toward the group of guests and said, "This is our coordinator, Christina. She's fantastic. We use her for everything." And just like that I vanished. Christina. Not Celestine. And again, no one corrected her. Felice smiled wide, her wine teeth showing, and went right back to laughing with people who thought her charming. I stood there frozen, my face betraying nothing. My smile didn't falter, but inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, not sadness, not even hurt. Something more hollow. I wondered when I became a ghost. Or worse, someone convenient to rename. I carried myself through the night like nothing happened. Refilled glasses. Checked the lights. Smoothed linens. Adjusted music levels. One man, middle-aged, silver watch catching the light, stopped me near the buffet. "This is top-tier work," he said, nodding around the deck. "You do this full-time?" I looked at him. Not anymore. His brow lifted like he wanted to ask more, but I excused myself. I'd left a career in corporate events years ago. When Aunt Patrice got sick, I stepped in to care for her. No one else volunteered. When she passed, I never quite found the way back to my own life. I suppose I filled that gap with favors. And my family let me. The party pulsed around me. A blur of white wine and linen jackets. I was everywhere and nowhere all at once. Dinner was called. I stood aside as the guests took their seats. Long tables dressed in ivory cloth, gold-rimmed plates, centerpieces I'd arranged myself. I scanned the place cards. No seat for me. I didn't flinch. Just walked slowly to the back of the yacht, toward the railing. The wind played with the edge of my dress. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check messages. There were none. A young server approached and handed me a plate of sea bass with couscous. Not a chair. Just a plate. Thanks, I said, quietly. It hit me then, that line I'd once read somewhere. Funny thing about building homes for others, you often forget you deserve to live in one. I took the plate and sat near the bar, on a bench half hidden by floral arrangements. An older woman, probably in her late 70s, approached slowly and sat beside me. You're the one who did those napkin leaves, right? She asked, smiling kindly. I nodded. She looked out at the party. Beautiful touch. I told Felice it had to be a woman's hands behind that kind of detail. She paused. Christina, right? I hesitated. Then said, yeah. It was easier that way. Easier than correcting people, reminding them you exist differently than they remember, or choose to. We sat in silence a moment longer, watching people laugh, clink glasses, flirt with people they'd talk about in hushed tones tomorrow. Felice approached from behind, bright and loud. There you are, she said to the woman. Then glanced at me. Christina's great. She does these events all over. Anyway, would you excuse us? The woman stood, touched my arm softly, and left with Felice. And just like that, I was back to being no one. I looked out over the water, my plate untouched on my lap. I built this night for them. From color scheme to canopy. From playlist to petals. And yet, no one asked if I'd like to be part of it. The next morning, I sat at a small cafe just down the street from the marina. Sunlight slipped through the fog like it didn't want to commit. I held my coffee like it might anchor me, but my hands still trembled slightly. The planner in front of me lay open, untouched. No appointments. Just smudges of last night's fingerprints on the corner of the page. I thought about the way the glasses clinked. The way my sister smiled as she handed me a stranger's name. The way no one noticed when I disappeared toward the railing, plate in hand. I wondered why I didn't say anything. I knew the answer. Because I already knew how they'd respond. They wouldn't. I scrolled through my phone and found the photos I'd taken, the table settings, the menu cards I'd designed, even the damn napkins I folded into leaves. I deleted each one slowly. I needed them gone. Not because they hurt, but because they took up space I needed back. By the time I got home, the fog had lifted, but my head hadn't. The silence of my apartment felt louder than the yacht ever did. I pulled out a storage bin from the back of my closet, one I hadn't touched in years. It was labeled family in thick black Sharpie. Inside, old photos, birthday cards, programs from school concerts I barely remembered. I dug deeper and found a frame wrapped in tissue paper. It held a photo from Felice's 8th birthday. I remembered that day. I'd helped plan it. Balloons. Cake. Even convinced her friends to yell surprise, on cue. In the photo, I stood to the side, half in frame, holding a plate of cupcakes. But someone had drawn a faint line through my face with a pen. Deliberate. Quiet. Cruel. I turned the frame over. To Felice, our shining star, love, mom and dad. Not even a mention of me. I sat on the floor, staring at it. Not crying. Not even blinking. It wasn't the first time. That was the part that stung. You don't lose your place in a family all at once. They chip away at it. Until one day, your absence looks like it belongs. That afternoon, I drove out to the old family home. I had to return a set of trays we'd used for the event. It felt petty to carry them by hand, but I needed the weight. Marcus answered the door. He looked surprised. Not unhappy, just like I wasn't expected. Didn't think you'd come all the way, he said, taking the trays. You could have just texted. Figured I was nearby, I lied. He left the front door open while I stood in the entryway, listening to the creak of the floorboards. Nothing had changed. Same scent of lemon cleaner and dust. Same framed photos. Same air of filtered pride. I stepped toward the hallway. The coat rack still stood against the wall. Above each hook, an engraved nameplate for each of us. Felice. Marcus. Lana. Even the grandkids had plaques now. Mine was gone. Not missing, scratched out. As if it had once been there and someone decided it no longer belonged. I touched the groove where my name used to be. It was rough. Jagged. Marcus noticed. Oh, yeah, he said, casually. Mom said yours came loose. Guess she forgot to replace it. I didn't respond. Didn't move. I hadn't lost my name. It was taken. I turned, walked out the door without saying goodbye. The screen door thudded behind me, but he didn't call after me. Once on the road, I kept driving. South, down the coast, windows halfway down, wind tangling my hair. I wasn't crying, but something in my chest felt too big to carry. Not again. I won't let this happen again. A therapist once told me, silence is a family's most violent tradition. I hadn't understood it then. I did now. I stopped at a gas station somewhere near San Gregorio. The restroom was empty. I splashed water on my face, then looked at myself in the mirror. What would the version of me who never backed down do right now? I didn't know her well. But I was ready to meet her. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Drafted a message to a law firm I'd saved in my notes over a year ago but never contacted. Subject line, requesting documentation of shared property. I didn't send it. Not yet. But I saved it. I didn't leave right away. After the nameplate, I just sat in my car for a while, parked across the street from the house I grew up in. The same sidewalk I scraped my knees on. Same porch where I used to race Marcus to the front door. I watched the entryway in the rearview mirror and thought, this place still recognizes me more than the people inside do. They say time helps you forget, I whispered to myself. But time doesn't forget you. Eventually, I grabbed the trays from the back seat and walked back up the steps like I had 100 times before. But this time, my hands didn't shake. Not from nerves, anyway. They were steady from something sharper, resolve. Inside, the evening was already in motion. Staff from the catering company were unloading desserts into the kitchen. One of them looked at me like I was one of them. Maybe I was. I didn't say a word. I just slipped in beside them, helping unpack the centerpieces I had coordinated days ago. Adjusted floral angles, made sure the tablecloths weren't wrinkled. Set the cutlery just right. No clipboard this time. Just instinct. Years of it. Upstairs, I could hear music drifting down. Laughter. Glasses clinking. I checked the clock. Guests were arriving. And I was still below deck, arranging the room they'd dine in. A server passed by and asked, "Is she one of the planners?" From the top of the stairs, I heard Felice answer lightly, "She's just helping tonight." Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. Busy enough to build the night. Not worthy enough to sit in it. I stayed long enough to light the candles. Then I moved through the hallway toward the back, just to get some air. That's when I saw him. Quinn Sterling. Same smirk. Same hands. Same laugh. Different woman. Eudora sat beside him, one hand wrapped possessively around his arm. They were laughing at some shared joke when he looked up and saw me. There was a beat. Just one. He raised his glass in polite acknowledgement. Not warm. Not cruel. Just polite. I gave the faintest nod. Eudora caught it. She looked at me the way women look at other women they know the truth about. No one else noticed. But I felt the temperature in the room shift. Just slightly. A draft of old history cutting through the expensive perfume and catered civility. Back in high school, Quinn once told me during a fight, "You're always in the background, Celestine. It's like you don't know how to take the center." I remember that night like it had just ended. Now here he was, center of the family table. Wearing the ring that could have been mine. Or maybe never should have been anyone's. I moved toward the guest wing. Quieter there. Less staged. A door was half open. I paused when I heard my name. She knew about the guest list, Eudora's voice, clipped and low. Mother's voice answered, calm but cold, she always listens more than she should. But she doesn't act. I stood still. Not out of fear. Out of clarity. They didn't know me at all. I stepped back, careful not to let the floor creak. On the desk outside the room was a guest memo. I picked it up. Coordinator, Christina. They hadn't even bothered to correct it. I folded the paper and slid it into my coat pocket. Out the window, I could see the yacht. Still docked. Still glowing. Still full of people who hadn't once asked where I went. But I wasn't going back on that boat. Not as Christina. Not as anything less than who I am. At the hotel that night, I stood at the window for a long time. Then I picked up my phone, opened the draft to the lawyer, and typed one new sentence. If I don't answer, call this. I watched the screen. I hadn't pressed send. But I had moved the first piece. I woke before the sun, no alarm needed. My body had learned to rise in silence, long before anyone thought to ask how I slept. The apartment was still, a soft morning chill brushing my arms as I wrapped myself in my old cardigan and sat at the kitchen table. The same table I'd sorted menus on, balanced budgets at, arranged flowers over, all for a dinner I wasn't even thanked for. My printer still hummed faintly from last night. I had guest lists spread out, invoices stacked by color, a receipt pinned beneath my coffee mug. Each slip of paper was proof I existed. Proof that I had planned every detail. Yet when I opened my sister's social media, there it was, a photo album of the party, grateful to Felice for organizing such a perfect evening. No mention of me. Not even a tag. My name didn't disappear. They erased it. I opened a new folder on my laptop. Named it Proof. Then added financials, emails, tasks. I went through every file, labeling, organizing. There was something sacred about turning insult into evidence. I wasn't just mad, I was documenting betrayal. By the time the doorbell rang, my folders were color-coded and backed up on a drive. It was my mother. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. Her tone was light, too light. You look tired. Are you okay, sweetie? I didn't bother playing along. You knew I planned that party. Why didn't you say something when Felice took the credit? She tilted her head slightly, a faux sympathy move I'd seen too often. You always think you do more than you actually do. I stood still, stunned by the sharpness dressed in sugar. She sat down, uninvited, and sipped the tea I hadn't made for her. We all sacrifice, she added, casually flipping through the papers I'd laid out. You're not special. I couldn't hold the words anymore. I gave up a promotion to take care of Uncle Ray when nobody else did. I took out a second job to help cover your mortgage. You let them pretend I did nothing. Her eyes didn't blink. That was your choice. My heart thudded like it was kicking through my ribs. I reached across the table and laid out the emails, my name in every header. Receipts in my bank account. Schedules I drafted. A bank transaction under their name. She leaned back, unmoved. Why keep score? We're family. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just pressed my hand flat on the table and said, calm and final, I'm not asking you to keep score. I'm asking you to stop pretending I don't exist. She said nothing. Just stood up, adjusted her coat, and walked out. No apology. No glance back. Once the door shut, my body folded forward. Not loud crying, just a slow collapse. My throat clenched, but it was more relief than sorrow. Like I'd stopped holding something and I should have let go years ago. After a moment, I straightened up, wiped my face, and whispered to no one, they don't get to define me anymore. I grabbed my phone and called my therapist. Hi, I said when she picked up. Is there any chance you have time today? For the first time, the pain felt honest. Not confusing. Not clouded. Just there. And I was ready to face it head on. A few hours later, as I reheated leftover soup, a text from Marcus buzzed in. Heard you yelled at Mom. You always were the dramatic one. I stared at the screen, then slowly forwarded the message to my email folder labeled Family Narrative. If being dramatic means telling the truth, I said out loud, then I'll make it my legacy. I woke up to quiet. The kind that doesn't just sit in the air, but presses into your chest. No pings. No buzzing. Just the dumb blue glow of my phone screen reflecting my own silence back at me. I tapped open the family chat, the Marrow family thread. The profile photo had changed. Some smiling group shot. But I wasn't in it. And that was the thing. I hadn't left. I'd been removed. They didn't cut me out, I thought, staring at the grayed out chat history, they unmade me. The sting settled into my throat, but I didn't cry. I got dressed. Grabbed the folder labeled proof. I didn't know exactly what I'd do with it yet, but I knew it needed to be in the car. The drive to the family house was long, fog skimming across the road, the marsh stretching out like something from a dream I no longer wanted to remember. Everything looked too perfect. Too clean. It always did when something ugly was hiding behind it. At the estate, a few of the staff were already packing up trays, floral bins, glassware. I caught one of them by the porch. What happened to the family chat? I asked. She hesitated. They archived it for housekeeping. Said we'd use a new one. I pulled out my phone right in front of her. I knew what I'd find, but I had to see it again. My name was gone. Threads locked. Photos deleted. I couldn't even read messages I had sent. My voice cracked, not out of fear, but finality. They'd made it official. I wasn't a ghost anymore. Ghosts at least get whispered about. I hit record and slowly screen captured the whole thing. My thumb was steady the entire time. Inside the main house, I walked past the main hallway, where the family's wall of portraits always stood. And there it was. A new canvas. Framed in gold. Freshly hung. My mother. My father. Eudora. Aldrich. Painted in delicate oils. Everyone airbrushed into grace. Everyone but me. I stood there, blinking hard. And just to the side, tucked into a dusty alcove behind a large floral stand, was the older family photo, taken when I was 17, when we still fit into one another's lives. That one had me in it. I moved the flowers aside. A spider's web clung to the frame. That was the portrait they buried. They didn't throw it out. They just made sure it wasn't seen. When you erase someone from memory, I thought, you count on no one looking back. But I looked. And I had proof. I walked to the dining room where the others were still sipping on late morning coffee and fake peace. I dropped my folder on the table. Nobody moved. I opened it. Invitations in my handwriting. Menus marked with my notes. Receipts tied to accounts with my name. Verena sighed, the way someone sighs when the truth annoys them. You're overreacting. I looked her dead in the eyes. I will show everyone what was never meant for me to show. Eudora rolled her eyes. This again? You always make things harder than they need to be. Harder for who? I asked. For the people who built a life out of pretending I wasn't standing right there? My mother didn't say a word. She just drank her tea. But I wasn't there for their response. I was there to say mine. I didn't threaten them. I just let the silence grow loud. By the time I stepped out to leave, the sun had burned off the fog, but the air still felt thick. As I neared my car, I heard the crunch of gravel. A window rolled down. Marcus. He didn't even look up. Why are you doing this? I didn't stop walking. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, because nobody ever believed me. I drove off without music. Just the sound of tires and breath and whatever was left of my old life blowing in the wind behind me. This fight, I said to myself, isn't about them anymore. It's about me, finally being seen. I got to the yacht before the caterers finished unloading the ice. The sky hadn't shaken off the last stretch of dusk, and the ocean still looked like quiet steel. I walked the length of the deck without saying much. Just nodded at the staff, rearranged a couple of seats near the starboard rail, and pulled a candle holder a little more center on a table someone had rushed. You learn how to disappear loud in spaces like this. It used to eat me up, how much effort went into pretending I wasn't standing right there. But tonight, I wasn't there to be seen. I was there to be heard. I kept hearing something my old mentor used to say. Silence isn't always dignity. Sometimes it's permission. For years, I'd mistaken survival for grace. Tonight, I was done mistaking. Guests started to arrive just before sunset. I moved between servers, checked spacing between floral stands, signaled the band to lower volume. No one spoke to me beyond a nod or a forced smile. I was expected to stay peripheral, present but not part of it. Then came the laugh. He was one of those donors who always overpronounced wine names and thought servers owed him applause. He picked up one of the folded napkins with the oak leaf embroidery I had hand-stitched the week before. Must be nice to be in the background doing all the unseen work, he chuckled loud enough for people to stop chewing. There was a pause, just enough to know the joke had landed. Felice swooped in before the awkwardness could settle. She's part of the team, she said, eyes not meeting mine, her smile too bright, too slick. The moment passed, but the stain stayed. I didn't flinch. I just walked to the stern, took one breath, and held it in my chest like armor. From the kitchen hallway, Maeve stepped out. Old, steady Maeve. She carried a tray of cups, stopped as she passed me, and set her hand gently on my shoulder. Her voice was soft but clear. Celestine, she said. I always saw you. The syllables landed like thunder. I don't know if it was the way she said my name, whole, careful, or that she chose that exact moment to say it out loud. People turned. They heard it. My name. Not her, not the helper, not the planner. Celestine. And just like that, the silence cracked. Not loud. Not obvious. But it cracked. Dinner rolled forward. A toast was announced. Someone handed Felice the mic. She gave the usual thanks, gratitude to the guests, appreciation for the staff, her voice laced with polite superiority. Then the mic moved down the line. I raised my hand. Someone hesitated but handed it to me. I didn't wait for permission. Good evening, I said, calm. Measured. I hope tonight's been beautiful for you. I hope the details, the light, the seating, the colors, brought you joy. I looked straight at the table where my family sat. Because beauty, I continued, rarely comes from ease. It's built. I reached into my bag and pressed play on the tablet I had set up earlier. A small screen behind the bar lit up. A quiet video started to roll. Clips of me handwriting seating cards. Tucking floral stems into foam. A shot of the scratched-out nameplate on the family estate. Snippets of emails confirming event permits, purchase orders with my initials. Nobody moved. Not even Felice. I've decided, I said, still holding the mic, to leave the story. Not because I wasn't good enough to be in it, but because I'm tired of being edited out. I turned back to the crowd. Behind every performance is someone who made the stage. There was no applause. Just breath. Just silence. And I knew it wasn't quiet because they didn't know what to say. It was quiet because, finally, I had. As I stepped back, I caught Eudora's face. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Not scared. Just unprepared for the version of me she couldn't control. I held the mic for one last line. You once believed your stories erased me. Watch how I rewrite this night. I slipped behind the stage curtain just before dusk, phone in hand, every file prepped, every screen cued. The evidence folder sat heavy in my bag, the guest lists, the annotated menus, the email chains. Tonight was not another silent evening, tonight was the question I had been waiting to ask the world. The deck lights glowed soft gold across the deck, and music hummed low in the background. In that quiet charged moment, I whispered to myself, tonight, I stopped being invisible. Guests settled into place. As the servers dished out courses, one brought a folded menu across the table in my direction. I saw the familiar handwriting scrawl across the bottom, for those who truly belong. My breath caught. It wasn't a flourish, it was a message. I raised the menu gently, snapped a photo, then cooled my face. I knew who wrote it, and she wanted me to feel the sting of exclusion. After dessert, a distinguished neighbor approached with a slight smile, his tone teasing but laced with doubt. Is it still your family's yacht? After all the whispers? He glanced at my face, as though searching for a reaction. Eudora laughed lightly behind him, Mother's eyes narrowed. The guests shifted. Silence pressed for a moment. I crossed the gap and answered, steady, yes, by name, but not by heart. That statement landed like a crack in the glass. Stillness. Then the screen behind the band flickered. The yacht's big display came alive, my video montage started rolling. It showed the hours nobody saw, stacks of menu drafts, tax statements, guest lists I had laid out myself, the scratched-off nameplate, each active erasure. A bold caption glowed, hostess, unknown, the daughter they erased. Cameras rose. Phones lit up. Gasps filled the air. I stepped into the light, microphone in hand. I didn't do this because I wanted attention, I said, voice crisp. I did it so the world would catch what you spent years hiding. I let my gaze sweep across the tables, the faces that pretended loyalty, the ones who erased me. You erased me. You edited me out. Tonight, I publish myself. Felice's lips trembled. Mother looked away. Eudora's face drained color. She opened her mouth but no words came. I closed the video and held my ground. Watch me. I woke up to a stillness that didn't feel hollow this time. It was quiet, but not heavy. Not tense. Just calm. The kind of silence that wraps around you, not the kind that crushes. I reached for my phone on the side table. One voicemail. My aunt's voice, crackled with emotion. I watched the video 3 times. I'm proud of you, Celestine. No one in this family had ever said that and meant it. My inbox buzzed, headlines already brewing. Clips from the yacht were trending, the screen grab of my face mid-sentence looping across social feeds. Hashtags I never thought would exist were now tied to my name. I should have felt overwhelmed, but instead, I poured a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the deck. The ocean looked like glass, soft morning light hitting the surface just right. I leaned on the rail, the breeze brushing past like an old friend. And for once, the silence around me felt earned. Not something forced on me. Not the result of being ignored. But something I chose. That day didn't bring chaos, it brought closure in small, unexpected ways. Mid-morning, my phone rang again. It was my father. I nearly let it go to voicemail. But I answered. I saw what you did, he started, voice gravelly with shame and time. You said what none of us dared. You didn't lie. He didn't say he was sorry. That would have been too easy. But it wasn't nothing. Later, I got a photo from my cousin, the one who used to braid my hair when we were little. A picture of an old notebook. My journal. The one I thought I lost. She texted, I kept it. I always thought it mattered. Then came an email from a reporter. They wanted an exclusive. The inside scoop. The scandal. I deleted it. These were the conversations that mattered now. Not for spectacle, not for revenge, but because they rebuilt the word family into something more honest. Something not rooted in DNA or money, but in courage. In showing up. In speaking when it hurt. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. I wasn't interested in pretending. But I could breathe. That afternoon, I stood at the back of the yacht again, this time with paperwork in hand. A foundation for orphaned youth was set to receive it, every inch, every chair, every polished surface. The same place where I was erased would now carry others forward. I signed my name, steady, full, proud. Then I walked the length of the deck, letting the memories wash through me. That first day I stepped aboard, I was invisible. Unnamed. Now, I was the one redefining what this place meant. I whispered, almost to the wind, I didn't sail away. I redefined the shore. I packed lightly. I wasn't running. I was headed to lead a women's leadership retreat in Colorado, something I never would have imagined for myself a year ago. On the flight, I scrolled through messages. One from a woman in her 60s, "You reminded me I still matter." Another, "You stood for more than just yourself." I read them twice. Then tucked the phone away and looked out the window. By late evening, I arrived at the retreat site, a small cabin tucked into the edge of the Rockies. The air was thinner here. Quiet in a different way. As I set my luggage down, a young woman walked up, maybe early 20s. Nervous, but with purpose in her eyes. "I watched your video," she said. "I'm not sure why I came, but I think I needed to." I looked at her. Really looked. "Good," I said. "Because I think I needed you too."